Howdy y'all, Meredith Jiles here with Backyard Basics. As Scott and Lauren said, 2011 was a double spanking year for the plants. February of 2011 saw the worst freeze in 35 years, and all of 2011 was a terrible drought. So what plants made it through both of these things without any issues? Now here's my situation. I'm in East Austin, just east of I-35, and I stopped watering in April of last year because I knew it was going to be a bad drought and I didn't want to be out there all the time. So here's a few of the ones that did well for me. Nearly all of my shade trees made it just fine. They did look like they were suffering, but they seem to have pulled through. Now that we've gotten some moisture, they look great. Some smaller trees that did great, the Huisache tree, one of the native acacias, it did great. Another one that you don't see nearly as often, an olive tree, Olea europea. Mostly fruitless varieties are what you're going to find in the nurseries, but there are fruiting ones available. Also, the Arizona cypress, a beautiful evergreen. The Texas smoke tree is another one that really performed well. And finally, the Mexican buckeye. Now moving down to some smaller shrub type stuff, we have some old favorites like the Texas sage. Another one you don't see nearly as often, the compact strawberry tree, a relative of our native madrone, but much easier to find and much easier to get in the ground and take care of. Chaparral sage, Salvia clevelandii. And also the Jerusalem sage. This is one that I thought for sure would freeze down and for sure would not make it through the drought. Survived both of them with no problem. Moving on to some smaller plants, most all of the agaves, yuccas, and their relatives did fine. Now you do want to make sure and check hardiness zones. Some of the agaves you'll find in nurseries are zone 9 and they may have struggled with the cold. Most of the yuccas, hesperaloes, dazzlerians did fine. Another one I really love has been the globe mallow. This plant has done wonderfully in my yard. It was actually planted in March of last year, and like I said, I stopped watering in April. It's performed wonderfully. The Blackfoot daisy. This is one you see growing native all through the hill country, does well with no irrigation at all. Right next to it a lot of times you'll see the four-nerve daisy, another great little perennial plant that does awesome in our Austin climate. A great way to replace your lawn would be with a plant like Texas sedge, a native small grass that you can mow, you can walk on, and performs really well even in the cold and the drought. So these are some plants that did really well for me in that double spanking year that was 2011. This is Meredith Jiles with Backyard Basics.